this trail, and
I wrote something real basic, but if you want, more stuff like that in there, email me and I'll put it in there. Got Steve on it.
Steve
reached out to you this week.
Steve is called, and
he likes to come to the office at like 4:29.
Pass that down to Kelly.
I'd like to welcome you to the March 10th Scott County Fiscal Court business meeting. I would like to ask you all to join me in the pledge. Let us pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Ms. Hamilton, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Hostetler?
Present.
Mr. Jones?
Here.
Mr. Wallace?
Here.
Mr. Corman?
Present.
Mr. Ellison?
Here.
Mr. Pratt?
Mr. Pratt had notified us that he was going to attend via Zoom because he was out of town on a commitment.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Mr. Livingston? Here. Mr. Culbertson?
Here.
Judge Covington?
Present. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is the consideration and approval of our minutes from our prior meeting. And let the record reflect that Ryan Pratt is with us virtually. So those minutes from our previous meeting, were there any questions or concerns related to those as presented?
There was a typo that Rob pointed out, and I'm going to fix.
He's taking up Alvin's spot. That's the spot right out of there, Rob Jones. So those that will be amended, that typo. Any other questions or comments? And would there be a motion from Mr. Jones?
Second.
Second from Mr. Corman. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Number 5, transfers. As considered in your packet, there is a $400,000 transfer, and Michelle Ray, would you like to speak to that? I always like calling on Michelle because she doesn't like to speak to things.
It's simply a transfer of funds from the Old Oxford Road. The transfer comes from Transportation Cabinet, sent it to the general fund, and we had to move the money over to the road fund. So it's just
$400,000, and I've been out there on Old Oxford, and that paving job is much improved. Period. It was a great thing to get done. Thank you, Michelle. Any questions for Michelle?
Thank you for doing that, because I travel that road a lot, and that's a great improvement.
No, much improved. Motion from Mr. Hostetler, second from Mr. Livingston. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Bills and hand checks as presented. Any questions or comments? Motion from Mr. Wallace. Is that a second from Mr. Ellison? Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Let the record reflect that clerk fees were submitted in the amount of $139,283.72. And let the record reflect that sheriff's fees in the amount of $119,616.67 were submitted. Also, let the record reflect that Mr. Kelly Corman has been diligent and has completed his training unit. Congratulations, Mr. Corman. Appreciate your interest in continuing education. All right, now number nine, ordinance 2301, second reading. I'd call on Mr. Cameron Culbertson, our county attorney, to please read that.
Scott County Fiscal Court, ordinance 23-01, an ordinance relating to the annual budget and amendment thereof. Whereas Scott County, Kentucky has realized unbudgeted receipts, be it ordained by Scott County of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Section 1, current fiscal year 2022-2023. The budget for the current fiscal year is amended to increase/decrease the receipts of the following funds to include unbudgeted receipts from A, revenues, Fund General Account 014402, Alcoholic Beverage License, amount $4,766. Fund General Account 014402-001, Alcoholic Beverage Regulatory Fee, 5%, amount $8,162.96. Fund General Account 014909, description cash transfer out to other funds, $12,928.96. And Fund ABC Fund Account 83-4910, description ABC cash transfers in from other funds, amount $12,928.96. Total amended revenues are $12,928.96. Section B, appropriation fund, ABC fund, account 83-5050-566, alcohol beverage control reimbursement to general fund, amount $12,928.96. Total amended expenditures are $12,928.96. Section 2, the amounts adjusting the receipt and expenditure and accounts in Section 1 are for governmental purposes. Approved by the Scott County Fiscal Court this day, the 10th day of March 2023.
Questions or comments? Would there be a motion? Motion from Mr. Corman, second from Mr. Livingston. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. That will move us down to ordinance 2302, second reading, a similar budget fund amendment.
All right, Scott County Fiscal Court, ordinance number 23-02, an ordinance relating to the annual budget and amendment thereof, whereas Scott County, Kentucky has realized unbudgeted receipts, be it ordained by Scott County of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Section 1, current fiscal year 2022-2023. The budget for the current fiscal year is amended to increase/decrease the receipts of the following funds to include unbudgeted receipts from A, revenues, Fund General Account 014760, description court settlements, amount $292,542.89. General Fund Account 014909, cash transfer out to other funds, $292,542.89. Fund Opioid Settlement Account 854910, transfer from other funds, $292,542.89. So total amended revenues are $292,542.89. B, appropriation funds Opioid Settlement Account 85-9300, transfers of appropriations to other funds, amount $292,542.89. Total amended expenditures, $292,542.89. Section 2, the amounts adjusting the receipt and expenditure of accounts in Section 1 are for governmental purposes. Approved by Scott County Fiscal Court, Kentucky, this 10th day of March, 2023.
Questions or comments? Motion from Mr. Hostetler, second from Mr. Ellison. Any other questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you all. Mr. Culbertson, County Attorney's Office, new hire, Mr. Mudrack. Good morning.
Morning. I guess I'll talk first.
Okay.
So we are asking you all to approve the hiring of a new child support caseworker. We had a person in that position resign. We've conducted a search process, and we are recommending hiring Allison DeMarcus, effective April 3rd at $27.36 an hour. We interviewed a lot of people, looked at a lot of candidates. We're excited about her. She has 20 years of experience in child support in both Kenton and Fayette County.
Yeah, yeah. I was going to echo that. We had about 60 people apply for the position, which is good, and
How many?
60.
Yeah, a lot.
And Cam and their team, and I was involved in some interviews too, interviewed at least 6, if not 8 people for the position. So your patience and persistence paid off, I think, and so we're pleased to have Allison join us. We would be fully staffed with this appointment, but we just had another resignation today, so we're still going to be one person short in the child
So we'll
support
be doing
office.
this again.
Can you use the same applicants, or is it a different role?
It's a similar role. Yeah, I think we could consider.
We could pull
if
from
we
that
had
group.
A group of, if we had particular applicants that we felt had good qualifications, we could look at those people.
Yeah, we'll encourage them to. We did repost the position new again, but and so if we had somebody that was really well qualified last time, we'll
Right.
encourage them to apply again.
Great.
So hopefully it'll be, shorter process this time.
Questions, comments? Motion from Mr. Hostetler. I heard Dwayne as a second. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Resolution 2305, Sheriff's Office LEPP grant. Lieutenant, how are you this morning?
Good, how are you all?
I don't know, we're well, thank you.
So the Sheriff's Office is going to apply for the Law Enforcement Protection Program grant through the Kentucky Office of Homeland Security. It's going to be to replace our duty pistols. Currently, they're approximately 10 years old. I provided some quotes. We're going to switch to the Glock 45 with the red dot sight, which seems to be the future of law enforcement. Myself and a few of the other deputies and command staff had the opportunity to shoot them the other day. They definitely make deputies more accurate. With this grant, the total project cost would be $37,826.72. We're requesting $24,026.72 from the grant fund. The remaining cost would be offset by buyback of our firearms through the Keesler's Police Supply.
Questions?
So how much, what was the total overall?
$37,826.72.
No match, correct?
No match. The remaining $13,800 would be from a buyback of our current firearms. Yes.
So would we be surplusing those firearms?
What's it sound like?
We would be, yes, selling them back to Keesler's Police Supply.
Okay.
So selling,
Yeah, yeah,
If we get the grant.
yeah.
Can I add something?
Sheriff, you know you are more than welcome.
Very much. Thank you very much, Judge. So we are going to put that in our budget because we won't know about the grant until when? Lieutenant?
The funding for this next group of money that comes through the program won't be available until July, so we won't know until after July.
So we're going to go ahead and put that in our budget that's due to Stacy by the 17th, in case we don't get the grant, but we'll cross our fingers we do.
It sounds like a win-win to me. David Livingston.
so, I hate to say this.
Then why are you going to say it?
Because I have a question on it. If it's over 30,000, do you have to bid it? How is it with firearms?
So I've gotten
For Sheriff's
two
Department.
quotes. The issue with getting quotes for Glocks is Keesler Police Supply has the Glock contract for the state.
Okay,
Nobody else
so
will even
competitive
provide it.
negotiation is what you use?
Yes.
It's a
pretty
single,
much like
so it's single source, so it doesn't matter?
L&W
Okay.
that upfits our cruisers,
Okay.
state contract, and
Right,
yeah.
right, okay.
Any other questions? Glock 45s with a red dot sight.
Yes.
Were we 47 also?
We were going to get a quote for the 47s also, just to see if there's any substantial price difference. We shot both, but they both, I think, will make everybody a better shooter.
And the total number of firearms?
I believe, I've got it on here, I believe it's going to be just over 46 as we're replacing, just in case we need a few extra. No, it was at 46.
Okay.
That's exactly what Captain Nettles got the quote for.
Any other questions, and would there be a motion?
I didn't read the
Motion for Mr. Wallace. Well, we got to read the resolution.
boring part.
Yes.
Scott County Fiscal Court Resolution Number 2305, a resolution of Scott County, Kentucky, authorizing the judge executive to make application for Law Enforcement Protection Program, or LEPP, duty weapons and ammunition funds administered through the Kentucky Office of Homeland Security, or KOHS, and upon arrival to enter into an agreement with KOHS to execute any documents which are deemed necessary by KOHS to facilitate and administer the project and to act as the authorized correspondent for this project. Whereas KRS 16.220 establishes a fund within KOHS to provide grants to sheriff's departments to purchase firearms, and whereas Scott County, Kentucky desires to make an application for LEPP duty, weapons, and ammunition funds in the amount of $24,026.72 to be used to purchase upgraded firearms for the Scott County Sheriff's Office, and whereas it is recognized that an application for an approval of Kentucky Office of Homeland Security funds impose certain obligations and responsibilities upon the county. Now, therefore, be it resolved this 10th day of March 2023 by Scott County, Kentucky, the Judge Executive is hereby authorized to execute and furnish all required documentation, including a memorandum of agreement, as may be required by KOHS for the furtherance of the above referenced project, and to act as the authorized correspondent for said project.
Now, we had a motion from Mr. Wallace. Does that still stand?
Yes, sir.
And we had a second from Mr. Ellison. So any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you for that work. Now, Resolution 2306, bypass access point. And Joe and Matt are here as well. Would you all like to make any comments? We have a resolution that we will read, and then if you all would like to make any comments, this is an ordinance that dates from 1986 that requires approval from Fiscal Court to add any entrances onto the bypass on this section. Is that correct?
That's correct. I think the ordinance was in place when the bypass was planned. Just, it's a limited access road with a median in the middle with, divisions in the median. So this is just to limit the access. Any new access points require approval from City Council and Fiscal Court. I think there was one other at the Amerson development. They added a right in, right out there as well. So.
And you've already, and I shared the letter of approval from your office, so I'll let Cam read the resolution.
Resolution 23-06, Scott County Fiscal Court, a resolution approving a new access point on the bypass. Whereas City of Georgetown Ordinance 86-11 established access points for the southern half of the bypass, and whereas Ordinance 86-11 also provided that all future access points, in addition to those set out above, may only be determined by application to and approval by the Georgetown-Scott County Planning and Zoning Commission, and final approval by the Georgetown City Council and the Scott Fiscal Court. And whereas the Georgetown-Scott County Planning Commission has approved an application for a new right-in/out located on the US 62 bypass at approximately mile point 9.55, as evidenced in a letter dated January 27th, 2023 from Joe Kane, Director, Georgetown-Scott County Planning Commission, attached here too as Exhibit A. And whereas Georgetown-Scott County Planning and Zoning staff has brought this matter to the Scott County Fiscal Court for approval, now therefore be it resolved by the Scott County Fiscal Court that the Scott County Fiscal Court hereby approves this proposed access point as previously approved by the Georgetown-Scott County Planning Commission.
Questions or comments?
Quick comment. I know there's another right in, right out in front of Walmart now, and I live on that side of the county and use that, and it's a little bit of a relief to that stoplight that's there for the citizens. And when people get used to it, and they will with this, and in fact, I think where that's located, if I got it in my mind properly, that'll be even more used. It'll be more relief if you're on the outer loop, and people get used to using it, they'll go to that. So anyhow, I think it's sounds to me like.
Joe, is there certain signage requirements? Do we have a lot of people going the wrong, try to take a left out of those places? I mean, I personally almost got hit by somebody coming out of that when it ended one night. They took a left and were going the wrong way, and I had to go into the median and get around them. So I never went and looked back if it was just, you can't do anything about idiots and drunks or whatever, they could do whatever. But,
Yeah, they're still state approved and they're state requirements for signage. And they have to meet this, they have to get an encroachment permit through the state, so they'll monitor the
Walmart
signage.
area fought it for a while because people were still going left out of there and tearing
Yeah.
down stuff and going through the, right?
They put, and they put a lot of the cones up and
What are the yellow?
Yeah. And I don't, you can't do that here.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask.
Yeah.
Can you
Here,
even
there's the
cross?
median.
Can you cross where this one's gonna be?
No, no.
Well,
That's what
you
somebody did to me.
could.
They went down, they drove all the way down Linus Hill from Van Anderson. You know, they went to that entrance there.
Yeah.
I had to, I mean, you can probably still see my marks in the grass. I had to ditch it.
Joe, has the state heard it yet, or?
Yeah, Chris Mitchell, I think, is here from Palmer Engineering. I think they have already, that's part of this process, the final thing. They just need to make sure that locally it's approved.
So the state's aware of it, and kind of
Yeah.
waiting on us
Yeah,
and the city?
yeah,
Has council heard it yet? No.
no.
How many units? Well, you remember how many will be built there?
Matt has the development plan if you want to come up.
What are they building?
Senior Villages is what they're building, correct? I think?
Yeah, it's a combination, it's 81,
Yeah, so they
Units.
give a lot of relief coming out of there for those.
yeah.
Especially taking it off of Lemons Mill, too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, senior living, there's, yeah.
Yeah.
The Legacy Trail is planned through this site too, so that'll, add some
Cool.
conflict resolution.
So we have a motion. Second. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you all.
Can I, Judge, can I ask,
Oh, absolutely.
Joe?
Mr. Wallace has a question for,
can you give us a status from last night's meeting on the RV park discussion?
Yeah, it was, the public hearing was continued, so we didn't have it last night. There was some testimony that was going to come from an outside expert on the septic system or the, sewage disposal. They couldn't make it, so the commission agreed to continue it.
That's fine. I just wanted to catch it before you left, so thank you.
and our audio, Zach with our audio booth asks everybody to speak into the microphone because trying to make sure audio's good. Thank you all. Thanks, everybody. Next is the coroner department space discussion. Essentially, we had discussion last week about the request for space for, the main request is for space for a cooler. And we've talked to the Soil Conservation Board, and their request is to stay where they're at. So, just to be able to move forward, what discussion does anyone want to have in regards to the
Judge,
question?
I asked for this to be on the agenda, and my premise is that I believe that if the coroner's office is going to be there using the bays, that they should have their offices there. Since that our workshop, I have learned that there's a possibility that the extension office is going to be looking at potential new space, and maybe that there might be a place for soil conservation there, but that could be in the future. And so maybe a hybrid version could work to figure out what happens with soil conservation in a few years if they locate, or in a few months if they locate out at the extension office. And so maybe the idea of putting the freezers there
in the Bay Area?
In the Bay Area would be able to work, and then soil conservation might find a new home in the future where the coroner's office could relocate.
Yeah, and I certainly can't speak to what the plans are of the extension office or the desire of, but, it is my understanding that the extension office is looking at some options about expanding, but I can't speak to any of
Yeah,
that.
and I
And all
I
you're
don't know
doing is,
Timeline or anything, timeline? You know, if it's 5 years from now, it's,
Yeah.
different
yeah.
animal.
I believe they're having a meeting here in the next week or two to look at potential plans to expand the extension office.
But
And to me, it might, and like I said, the judge is correct, that there's nothing in concrete or anything, but it would kind of make sense that the extension office and soil conservation be together, and
So all you're asking is that could be a conversation.
sure, that's exactly,
And it might go somewhere and it might not.
that's right.
But I think the real question is the court in favor of officially designating the Penn Avenue 3 bays as, space for the coroner to do business?
I would make that motion. I think it's time to move forward. We need to have that somewhere. And that seems to be the.
And I'm in favor of it too, but my only question.
So that's a second.
That's a second. But what, are we voting on any improvements that need to be done also?
I think all we're doing is voting on them to be allowed to use the space. And, they're going to put in a budget request for a cooler. I think it's about $24,000. We're approving for them to be able to use the space. Then the next discussion will be, we'll look at individual requests from departments and constitutional officers. Then we'll look holistically at what we can do and what we can't do. So I think that's the best answer I can give.
Okay.
So we've got a motion, and does your second stand? Any other questions or comments?
So at this point, if we approve this, it will allow them to, the coroner and his staff, at least go down there and start looking around and developing a budget plan, what they want to do.
Right.
But to actually take any action, it'll come back.
Right,
One way or
through the
another.
budget process.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All we're doing is officially saying that coroner can
Go down
use
there.
that Penn Avenue bays as a designated area for their office to operate.
I just see some things coming up in my mind, like the electric bills, or if there's water bills or anything like that. I mean, soil conservation probably doesn't want to pay for our cooler.
But I think it's separate.
Okay.
I think, and I need to check.
2 meters.
There's 2 meters, so.
That makes it easy.
Good questions, though. So we've got a motion, we've got a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Surplus, JR, you've worked a lot on this surplus. You have any comments or such? Everybody's seen the list.
It's just one item.
Is it just one? It's not that extended.
The next court meeting, I'm going to ask.
Okay. Multiple.
Come on Sutton Field and
Yes. Okay.
What's the one item on this one? I don't know. If it's
1985 AM General Hummer, VIN number XX, well, it's VIN number ending
One of the police ones?
3546.
Was it county, sheriff's office or something?
Yeah, I think the U.S. military, I believe.
Donated all those,
They donated them to the sheriff's office.
One of those donated deals.
We got those years ago through the GRMO program, and after, I think it's 5 years, we own it, we can sell it, and we're not using it. I think JR was the one that probably needed the most work, right, JR?
Motion, Judge.
Motion. Second for Mr. Livingston. He beat you, Mr. Ellison. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I do have a question. The light poles. So, I was out at Marshall Field yesterday, Marshall Park, the softball fields. They had a light pole go down. Well, those light poles on that lower field are all old telephone poles.
Telephone poles, yeah.
Is there any possibility that, is that something we could offer to the city if they're usable to put on that field?
1,000, yes.
Okay. All right. I'd like to do that because that field is in
Those poles
terrible.
are pretty old.
They're off Sutton Field, but they're
Dude, have you seen the poles at Marshall?
Right, some of those.
They're just above my head. They're so short.
Well, yeah. But as far as that pole, those poles are strong.
Yeah.
They're
JR.
short.
there's 8 of them, David, it's like 60 foot tall.
Okay. I didn't know if they were in usable condition to be able to. offer to put down there if they wanted to spend the money to install them. But they lost a pole, so they're going to have to install one anyway.
Technically, should we reach out to Kim and the city, Kim Rice? We'll reach out to those entities and see about that. But I'll reach out to the mayor. With that said, we have a fire department agreement. And Chief's here. Chief, how are you, Chief Canadian?
Good. Judge, fiscal court members. Chief Ward wanted, it's just we had to update all our mutual aid agreements. If you look, it's for every surrounding county that involves us, and what it does, it was all sent out to y'all. The only one that you won't see that's really close is Campbellsville, where we've been doing, formed a good relationship with them for doing swift water training. And a couple of past emergencies like the flooding, they've requested, because our personnel were available and did well, so they requested us to assist with them. So because of that relationship, that's the only one that's not a neighboring county.
Questions?
Chief Canavy, I think that I know this answer, but when we, let's say, when we had the issues of Weisenberger's Mill, Woodford County responded to a fire in Zion Hill area, they would not charge us as well as we don't charge anybody if we go. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And that's what it is. It's just, and under the statute, we have to have a agreement. Now, if you look, the city of Georgetown Stamping Ground and EMS aren't involved in it because they're local. They're all within the county. So it's only for outside county agencies.
And they're the same ones basically that we've been involved in.
Yeah, and every so many years, we just go back and have to update all the paperwork make sure it's all up to date.
Motion, Judge.
Motion, second. Any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. All right, some new business that I want to address, but first and foremost, a week ago we were sitting here and the forecast was for a wind, and the wind came that afternoon, and EMA and EMS, fire, sheriff's department, police, public works, road department have all, I just want to publicly thank and allow you all to make any comment, and then also our utility linemen and the crews. At one time there were 9,000 customers without service. Today, everyone from I looked, it's zero. Mike, EMA set up call center and responded for folks that had medical needs. JR's crews, spectacular again, 25 roads blocked at one time. And, just people don't stop to think about, we were blessed. And, I know the numerous EMS calls, fire and sheriff's office calls for service, and the teamwork and collaboration. Our community is blessed, and I just wanted to publicly say thank you to all involved. Any comments from any of our court members?
I just want to echo that. I did hear from some folks in the northern part of the county that trees were down blocking, and it was impressive how quickly they got cleaned up under the circumstances. It was great.
I drove around and come across Galloway, and our county fire guys were out there cleaning off Galloway, getting rid of the trees, and that was awesome to see, because Galloway, I don't know if y'all know it, but that's the main road for them to come from Homestead to Stamping Ground if we have a fire out that way. So that was great. That was great to see. So.
Judge, thank you for all the updates that you did on Facebook. We thank the linemen as well. I know they're not under our purview, but it's as though many constituents will reach out to you, and they've reached out to us. We could just get the electric turned on, but thanks to all those folks. They were from North Carolina, Oklahoma, Missouri, every which way. I
wouldn't mind doing a resolution for Bluegrass Energy, Owen Electric, and also KU, of course.
Well, also stick Elliott in there too. My son works for Elliott.
and then we could, but just to send to their office to just as a just saying, hey, we really do support you.
And they did a great job of getting the schools back on quick so that we can get kids back in schools, so.
Yeah.
And they-
Fayette County didn't have school Monday or Tuesday, and, you know, the conversation that I heard was if we can get them in school, because some of them hadn't had a warm meal,
Right.
to get them in school and get them a warm meal.
Let the parents go to work,
Yeah.
all those things.
David?
It does bring up a question too going into the future because the fiber is going to be pole-based, correct?
1,000 times, 97% of our projects fiber on aerial.
It might be good to have a conversation with Spectrum to say, hey, how will you handle this if we have an event like this when the project is built out? You know, what kind of response can we expect?
A slow one. I mean, I'm just gonna tell you.
You know, JR, and I'll have that conversation because I know that they've hung fiber already,
A ton.
and they've got to circle back, you know, where they have to circle back to. But, you know, like, you know, JR's group was out Friday night, and then, you know, Saturday morning they were back at it. And, you know, JR's, you know, they're getting a front end loader out to Pokeberry and then a front end loader out to Mount Horeb to get big trees. And then, you know, we spent money on that tree on that grabber truck. And how could you share how much that means to us?
Yes, and first off here, it makes our job so much easier having a judge and a court that supports us with equipment-wise on what we need and everything. It's just great to have in disasters like this. But as of last night, we had 16 tandem loads of huge debris that we had hauled off. 11 of those brush trucks completely full that we had hauled off from the sides of the road, and 6 huge dump truck loads of chips that we had chipped up with a chipper. So, and we still got another week's worth of cleanup through the subdivisions and some roadsides. But the main thing is to get the roads open and tell you thank y'all for the support of the brush truck, backhoes, and loaders that y'all give us, and it just makes everything so much.
We appreciate y'all and appreciate all our first responders.
Do you take all that stuff to the reservoir area?
Reservoir, any wood debris.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kinda
It'll
good that
rot
they have
up
it,
over time.
someplace to take it.
Yeah.
Thank y'all.
It is. So since you mentioned the reservoir, I would like to recommend, and Cam and I have discussed, but I'd like to go ahead and recommend asking Cam to draft an ordinance that really puts the advisory board for the reservoir in place and gives it structure. Cam can put the draft together. We can you know, review it and then talk about it on the 23rd. The reservoir advisory board folks that have applied are going to meet on the 23rd. And Raven Run in Lexington is kind of a similar model that we can use. And I'm not asking anybody to vote on it. I just like your feedback. What that does for you is it gives structure not only now, but into the future. And in my opinion, you know, you've got 1,500 acres out there, and what we could do to set that aside for public use and assure that it's for public use and give some structure to it, I think would be wise. So, comments?
I'll make a comment. I think it's a great idea, and I've had, because my wife's kind of in the horse world, a lot of people reach out to us and they're
God bless
excited.
Kelly.
But yeah, there's a lot of people are looking forward to that having some structure, because for years people weren't really sure who could go down and ride and where to park and what rules were. And so this board will really help a lot. So yeah, I'm real excited about it.
Okay. Comments?
Mitch, giving direction to this board, is it going to, are you thinking that the court needs to kind of pass some resolution or give direction in terms of the possibility that the reservoir could possibly be built in the future. We've talked about this, that's not completely off of the map. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to happen, and it's very unlikely that it will happen, but looking forward, where the proposed lake was, the reservoir, the dam and that area, should that be something that you can look at developing other areas, but that should kind of be somewhat of a protected area?
I think it's a good conversation to have.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't want to ever say never, because it's just not, you know, the case. But the likelihood of that being approved by the Army Corps of Engineers is very, very slim, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
But that can be a conversation that they have, and you know, I think it's something that should be brought up in the first meeting.
I'll make a comment on that too, because I think that the amount of water, I mean, you can still have a lot of trails around the water, and it still serve both purposes. And, you know, that's been looked at for, what, 30 years? But let's say in 15 years it's something doable, then I guess that court would deal with it at that time. But I think right now, just having a board and some direction and doing something that we know we can do is really good.
There was a walking trail that was done between Western, and it goes down kind of along where the road department is. It was done years ago. And when they were looking at putting the bypass extension in, one of the things that the state government objections were is that there was this walking trail here, and that this has already been established. And that could, maybe that's a reason why we shouldn't build the bypass. Well, that got taken care of and addressed. But my whole point to telling that story is that we don't want anything that could potentially object. Well, we've decided now we're going to let you all get a permit and build a dam and build a reservoir. But you all got horse trails.
In 15 or 20 years, they could apply and say it's for recreational use.
Exactly.
And you just have an acknowledgement of that as well.
Well, we've kind of already got the horse trails and the mountain bike trails all over the property, so, yeah.
So with this board structure, if there are, I'm assuming it would just be recommendations that they
Recommendations to the
come
court.
back to the court.
They
Okay.
can't authorize expenditures, and it's
Or rules or regulations.
It's making
or-
recommendations, but
It's all gonna come back to us.
It's a structured way to get feedback from the community, community input.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
All right. So Cam, Cam and I've shared some stuff.
Draft something up.
Next, Sheriff's Office. We've got two parallel things here. EMS station that's, you know, well into the process of being prepared for going out to bid. And there's a question with our colleagues at the city about a desire if they want to try to build a fire station at the same time as the EMS station in an effort to possibly save money by, you know, doing the bid at the same time. And they're trying to identify if that's a direction they want to go. The sheriff's office and the clerk's office annex is very close to being ready for bid. On Monday, the city will have discussion and I think a question of do they want to go forward with the fire station. That'll be discussed Monday night, the 13th is what I understand. Well, all I'm wanting to tell you all, it will be my recommendation, regardless of whether fire, if they decide to build the fire, is I want to, on the Thursday, the 23rd, I want to ask Branstad Carroll to have stuff to present to you all to go forward with putting the sheriff's office on out to bid. If they elect to build the fire station on Monday night, we have to get through two hurdles, the Kentucky American Water Line, and that's got to be a bid process, but also it'll take another 2 to 3 months to finalize, you know, it'd probably be more like 3 months plus, to finalize the bid documents for the fire station. So I think it's my recommendation to move forward with the Sheriff's Office Clerk's Annex bid on the 23rd. Questions or comments?
Can I make a motion?
Will all of this be paid for out of the general fund? Over like 2 budget cycles? Or?
Well, what I think we do, and we've discussed, my answer is no.
Okay.
But it's a court decision. In my opinion, we get the bids back and we decide how much cash do we want to put down, and then we do a 10-year, I think, bond or note, so we don't put a lot of pressure on our reserves. And we've talked with R.J. Palmer and Michael George, Michelle, and until we get that bid document back, then we will put pencil to paper really hard and decide, and I was trying to time it all up with the EMS station at the same time, and there was an opportunity possibly that the same company would bid on both projects. And, Rick.
And they still might.
And they still might.
In my view, I would have done them one at a time anyhow.
Yeah.
Just throw it out there. The hope is.
Well, there is no motion.
Yeah.
There's not going to be. All I'm trying to do is lay the groundwork to. Tony's back there confusing us. So if city on Monday decides, hey, we're going to wait, then we can put it all out at the same time. But if the city says, hey, we want to build, then we'll have to wait probably 3 months to put that. But the ballpark on the EMS is about 5.3 is what if I remember correctly. And, that cost is split. So the bulk of what we're talking about is in the sheriff's clerk's office. So we
How much were we there?
Huh?
How much was that? I forget.
Michelle helped me, probably more like 13 in it.
Yeah, that's right.
Isn't that right?
So how does that time up with like the bonding process? How long does the bonding process take versus how long will these bids be good for?
The bids can be good for long enough for the bond process.
Okay.
There's time.
Would you like me to have RJ?
No, I was I knew
yeah.
Dwayne would know this, dealing with the school side and bonding and
We can
facilities.
for months and not sell bonds until we go through the process of value engineering.
As long as the contractor understands that, yeah, we got to go through. Okay.
So is everybody, on the 23rd, of course, on the 13th, I'll let you know what shakes. But on the 23rd, that would be my goal to have the documents ahead of time for you to review. And then, of course, with any of these, you can reject any and all bids. So that's the plan there. I want to also tell, we have shared the contracts, draft contracts that CAM drafted for other detention centers at Oldham, Laurel, Clark, and I can never remember the last one, and don't say it. It's down at, it's Lebanon, Kentucky, Marion County. So those 4 CAM has drafted. What I would recommend is CAM sharing those with the county attorney and judge and jailer of those facilities, and asking them to review and consider. Get feedback. If they feel like they're good with it, then the court can consider those 4 on our side and get them signed by those other facilities and physical courts, and then we can go from there. Does that sound like a plan? Cam, would you like to add?
I was just going to ask if anybody, I think I emailed these out yesterday, so I'm not sure if y'all had a good chance to read them, but if y'all have feedback, that things you would like maybe added or changed before I send them to them, just let me know. Basically, I used a template from another county that I found, Marion and Washington. I just modeled it off their contract.
And I do want to mention a couple more things, along with the EMS station we just talked about, the EMS request about purchasing a new ambulance. Need to get that spreadsheet out there to you all so you can see the roster of inventory of vehicles. Need to do the same thing with the mayor. But on the 23rd, it would be my recommendation after I talk with the mayor. You know, we've got 150,000 sitting in the budget now, and you know, it's 284. Is that right? 285. I almost wonder, Chris, could you call and ask if they would take 150 now and then the balance July 1 or July, and that way we wouldn't have to. That would make it clean, and I could tell Mayor Jenkins that additional half was coming out of next year's budget. Instead of 150,000 out of next year's budget, it's just half of that. Could you do that and ask them? So we'll have information about that to share and bring that back on the 23rd. The next big thing, and I'd like some comment from Magistrate Hosteller, because this conversation's, Magistrate Hosteller's been in it as much as I have. And there's an existing issue that relates to sanitary sewer capacity in northern Scott County. Basically from Rogers Gap Road north to Northern Elementary, from what has been described to me, is those force mains do not have an additional capacity in those areas. And those force mains run to treatment plant 2. And it is a project that needs to be considered, and one possibility to get some funding for the project is through a grant through Congressman Andy Barr's office. And the grant is, it's called a, I've got it right here. Community projects. I mean, it's really that simple. It's a community projects grant. But what has been discussed is possibly applying for this grant. It's an 80-20 match, and Chase Azevedo and representative from HMB, Chris Stewart's meeting today and discussing possibilities about a budget for, an estimated budget for design and engineering. And we could possibly apply for this grant and fund the design and engineering portion. We could also, if it's allowable, you can apply to up to $5 million. So let's just say the design and engineering on this project was $3 million. We could apply for that, $3 million, and then additional $2 million for construction. It's going to be a large 20 to 20. I mean, it's a big project. And what we would probably have to do is have a special called meeting next week. We could, if you couldn't be in person, we could do it by Zoom. But once all of the details are ironed out about the grant application, I would share that with you and then ask you to consider it in a special called meeting. Would you like to comment on?
Yeah, I'll try to put it in a nutshell, because the discussion's been going on for probably going close to 2 years now, at least a year and a half in the past. And you've already defined it, the capacity on those lines when it gets up there at Northern Elementary and Double Culvert at that pump station coming south, which basically eliminates or really stymies growth that's already happened north of there, the Sadieville area and north. And I don't think we know the final solution, but we do know it's going to be expensive. It's going to be an expensive fix. It's going to require a certain size line apparently, and maybe even upgrading the pump stations that are involved, because there's 2 or 3 coming from Sadieville all the way down to Rogers Gap, and it crosses under the interstate and it's pumped over to, I think that's Plant 2 across the street from Toyota. So, we've
Are
been
these
trying.
underground?
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes.
It's not that there's an issue of capacity at Plant 2, it's the size and capacity of the
lines,
force
yeah.
mains.
Yeah.
So we would be replacing lines, not adding.
Well, that part we don't exactly know. There's talk of adding.
Yeah,
There's
and right
talk.
now, GMWSS is doing a study that's supposed to be done in June, July, that will give them a holistic picture. But until they get that done, they can't say, hey, we want to make it a bigger line that's parallel, or just add a same size line, because there are force mains. You can't just make them bigger. You know, they have to hold that pressure.
Well, that's it. And so we don't know that answer, but we do know in the beginning, we need to get an engineering staff, somebody going on, so that we can look for this grant.
Has anybody ever thought about just another treatment plant up north?
Well, there are a lot of discussions going on. And one of the main things that's kind of been stopping us is getting the study done that GMWSS, I believe they're on the far end of that. I think that's forthcoming soon, last I heard.
I think once you get a picture,
right,
then they know the facts and data, then they have to make a decision, what's the best decision. But this grant would help navigate that.
Sure. So here we are, running out of capacity. I've heard that a lot lately.
I want to frame it, though.
But
I want to frame it that it's not at the plant.
Right,
It's
it's
the line.
But putting in a line, because there's going to be continued growth up there. So if they put a line in there, what kind of assurances can we have as a fiscal court that future fiscal courts won't be looking at a $15 to $20 million project 20 years from now, replacing another line because it's outside or undersized at that point? I mean,
I think what you and Dwayne are saying, are we going to look at all options?
And the thing is, we've talked about growth and continue to talk about growth. This will open up the opportunity for more growth that we need to discuss, because we know that our school systems, as quickly as people are moving in, end up with capacity capacity issues, not issues, but need more growth for middle and elementary schools. And so that's going to bleed over into the high school 10 years from now, so I think it's fair to talk about all those things.
The domino effect of all of it.
Yes.
And then, but I do feel strongly that the fiscal court, should consider supporting this and knowing that, we're going to be a partner probably as we move forward on the big project, whether you want to be or not. And I'm only one vote, but I think we have a duty to consider supporting that type of infrastructure projects.
I think that's one of our main goals as court members is infrastructure.
Correct.
And David's correct. He's talked about that through the years, looking for that future growth, because it's going to grow. We're growing. And right now it's kind of stymied in the northern part of the county, not just Sadie'ville, but that whole corridor, because those folks had been tying on through the years. And some of them can't now, that are right there on that US 25 corridor where that current line is located, and the future one will be located if that's what the decision is. But I want to add one more thing, and I agree with both of you guys, especially talking about a potential, could you do another sewage treatment plant? That's actually kind of been talked about, but we've just been waiting for this study to get done. There's been a lot of conversation, and they're trying to look, as the judge likes to use, holistically. And that's the same thing the mayor of Sadie'ville's been trying to do. He's been trying to look for other options, and he's been in a lot of the discussions. And so that Sadie'ville exit, there's been a lot of activity up there of folks wanting to do this, that, or the other. But the first thing that happens is, well, we don't have sewage capacity.
So if, go ahead, Rob.
And I would hope that the GMWSS would look at all things, because like the comp plan, when I was sitting on the comp plan committee, we were trying to push people north to save our farmland down. There's the better farmland, to push people north where it's not such good farmland. So the growth is going to continue up that way. I hope that that's the way it's still continuing to go.
Yeah, and Mayor Wagner shared that there's both been discussions of residential projects and commercial projects right along the interstate there. So it's a reality, and you got to have good infrastructure. And if you're going to have good infrastructure, you got to have sewer and not only water, but water to fight fires and protect our first responders and have adequate fire protection there as well. So just the reality is, I think you could apply up to $5 million. If you did apply for $5 million, then you'd be committing in next year's budget of $1 million commitment.
A
Match. It's 80-20. And I'll get the specifics. I'll share, and then, try to
get
I think
this-
the deadline for the application is Friday, a week from today.
So
But the turnaround was less than 3 weeks.
That you'll know?
No.
Oh.
When they put out the
When they put
notice,
it out, okay.
it was like
Gotcha.
crazy.
Going forward, though, we're going to have a commitment from GMWSS. I mean, they have been partners with us in all these issues, whether with sewer or water. They're going to have some skin in the game. It can't be, to me, can't fall completely on the county to build this or to.
No.
Can't fall on the county and then also fall on the county residents in increased rates. Right.
Yeah, I respect that. Any other comments or questions about that? And I'll be
It
coming back.
will require a special call meeting.
We'd have to have a special called meeting.
I mean, just to let everybody know.
Yeah, and if
Because
you
that
couldn't-
deadline's next Friday, if we
Next
decide
Friday.
to do it.
And if you cannot meet in person, I think we could do it by Zoom. You could attend by Zoom. And then the last thing that I want to talk about is the bluegrass water. And I have, Mike shared an email and a letter. I had a letter from a citizen that Chad shared. So there's 2 different letters, and you're talking about Moon Lake, where they applied for this increase last year, and it was going from like $12.86 to $86, and then out in Triport Road, the industrial area, the costs were going up considerably there as well. That got denied because of technicality. And but they're coming back and asking for the same, or really going to $99 in Mike's neighborhood out there in Moon Lake. That's like 694% increase.
Yeah.
Now, I've talked to Rick's talked to some citizens, and I have had the opportunity to talk with Fitz. Fitz is a very valuable advisor in these, because he's been involved. And Fitz sent an email, and I wanted to share some out of the email. Bluegrass Water filed their rate case proposing changes in the sewage rates on February 27th. And Fitz shares that the case number was 22-00432, and he shared the case filings. But on March 6th, that was Monday, the commission, the Public Service Commission, rejected their filing due to several deficiencies, and that letter's attached. He thinks that they'll correct the deficiencies and then come back and file. So it's buying us a little time. But once the commission accepts their filing, the commission will enter a procedural order for the case, which will include a deadline for intervention. The best way to voice opposition to the rate increase would be for the county to intervene on behalf of its residents, which would give the county the ability to pose written questions under oath, request documents, file testimony, and cross-examine witnesses. There are several good attorneys who could help, and I would be happy to help as well. The sort of rate spike violates, among the other things, the principle of gradualism in rate increases. And he says, let me know how I can help. My advice is that we, and Cam and I, engage with Fitz, and if Fitz doesn't want to physically do it, that we hire representation from his recommendation that can represent our community and residents.
I think you get Fitz if you can.
Well, no, we go for, yeah, if you go for the gold standard. Does that sound fair to you all?
Just for a point of clarity on it, so it sounded like Fitz is saying that we're okay as a court to go this path.
That's what he
Because
recommends.
I didn't understand that, that being the treatment folks being a private entity and our citizens being private citizens. I just want to make sure we weren't crossing the line, but no, he states that pretty plainly.
That, yes.
Yeah. Which I want to assist the citizens any way that we can, because I thought it was rather absurd that they have such a short deadline in that letter as far as how it's going to take place. Of course, that's that company's thought process. But the other thing was such a significant increase. It's just incredible. And so I do want to help. I just want to make sure we're not getting out of our lane, but yeah.
Yeah, from his email, that would be.
Cam, do we need any kind of a motion or just?
I don't think we're taking any, I'm not hearing, what I'm hearing is, based on this conversation, Joe, Pat, Fitz, and I are going to talk, and then we're going to maybe come to you with a motion.
On the 23rd.
Yeah, on the 23rd. Is that your thought?
I mean, if you want to go ahead, we could make a motion.
Well,
to authorize,
I don't know what it would be, so.
Well, the motion would be to authorize the judge executive and the county attorney to engage outside counsel to address the rate hike increase.
Yeah, I guess.
Let's go ahead and make that motion.
Yeah, that was.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Is that a second?
What you said. I don't think I can say that.
The motion is, the court authorizes the county judge executive and the county attorney to engage outside counsel to address the rate hike increase from bluegrass water. So we have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Judge, I got a question on that.
Yes, sir.
So at Wood Lake, where do they pump theirs to? Do they pump this, the plant 2 also?
Wood Lake?
Yeah, does the bluegrass? Moon Lake, I mean.
Moon Lake
I said
goes
Moon
to
Lake.
this private bluegrass water that used to be what was called Delaplane Disposal.
That plant is over behind the.
And it's down there at
old
the bottom
grandma's
of West Houston.
kitchen.
So that treatment plant.
Yeah, and that's private, and that's the one that these folks own.
They pump underneath the interstate.
Yeah.
Underneath the interstate to that small.
It also takes in Rifton Meadows. They're on that same thing, across the street from Moon Lake.
I'm just thinking in my head, is there any way to tie them into this new line from Sadieville? If that's got to be done, I mean, if that saves taxpayer dollars.
It'd be something to have in the conversation. Yes. Okay, I'm done with new business. Any court member have new business?
I just had a question on, well, Dave's got his hands up, though. He's
David,
I'm trying
go right
to be
ahead.
Dave's back in school. Go ahead.
David Livingston.
Well, we got a lot of school people up here. I just wanted to say, the Kentucky Magistrates Commissioner Association Conference is next week. I'm ending my time as president, so I would love for you all to be there Wednesday night at 5 o'clock, if you can be around. There's going to be a reception and everything. So, Louisville Marriott.
I'm registered. Dwayne's registered. Anybody else registered? Rob's registered.
Yeah, but I'm going to miss Wednesday because I got a doctor's appointment.
Yeah, likely story. You and Ricky.
So Dwayne and I will try to be there to
My
support
wife's
you.
trying to make excuses not to be there, so.
All right. Any other new business?
I just want to ask, have you ever any updates on the 460?
Yeah, it's moving forward. Like, I'm
not seeing anything out there.
Their stakes and engineering, they're doing the right of way.
Okay.
And JR and I have a meeting. Is it next week, JR? It's the following week. So we'll have an update, a good update, and I'll share information. But, you know, contractors, engineers, I've seen right out there on 460 at Crumball, like they're drilling core samples. I mean, they're,
Geo studies.
yeah, they're doing all that stuff. So any other new business down here?
We are, I believe, close or at least finished out there at Lyle Road Soccer Complex. When are we gonna have a ribbon cutting and
Well,
celebrate?
JR, will you come up?
When the weather breaks.
Yeah.
So JR's team, along with Parks and Rec, you want to share what you all have done this week?
Yeah, we went out there Wednesday and put the final seating down,
Power seated it.
yeah, and got all the soccer fields done, talked with the, Marilla, told them some of the little issues that we needed to get cleaned
A
up.
punch list of
Graded.
probably 20 little things.
Yes.
The biggest thing to JR and I is the common areas that, because of it being so wet last fall, we said, let's push to the spring and you can grade and clean up. And they're going to do that.
Well, one of the things we did do is we voted kind of in October to try to get Hamilton Hickory to go out there and pave it, and they didn't get to it. Or
Well, no,
like
the
Oh, they
base
did?
is down.
They got the base, the final.
It's on priority, the parking lot and the road in and out. Talked to Mark last week, I guess. That is on one of the first projects, just as soon as the blacktop lane opens. And I talked to the supervisor with Marilla, and he assured me that he would get the crews back in there and get the finishing touches put up. Because
So
I know
after-
the soccer players.
After
get all
Marilla
that
does
done,
that,
yeah.
and I'd like to, I'd like to wait till we got the top coat put on
Sure.
and do it. But the big thing was JR, we sowed grass seed last fall, and that helped hold it.
Yes.
But we need to continue to seed it. It's just the reality of it.
What's the projection date of being able to play?
Well, if it's up to JR and I, it'd be another 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
You agree?
Yes, absolutely.
Just because of trying to let that grass grow. Yeah. Now, nobody's called me and said, oh, we got to get on there, we got to get on. They're very happy that,
They were nice to
yeah,
Yeah.
so. Yes, sir.
Back to the jail contracts. I
Yes,
was
sir.
hoping you'd tell us that Grant County decided to change their mind or something.
Rob, I will follow back up with them. I have not had that conversation.
Also, back to the last sewage treat, the private sewage treatment company, I want to connect you with a couple of folks, citizens that are affected, that maybe could join the conversation with some information.
Okay.
So I'll do that after court.
Okay. Anyone from our audience, Mike?
I didn't get a chance to get on the agenda, but I'm requesting permission for out-of-state travel next month, going to Savannah from April 11th to the 14th for the Emergency Management Conference and FEMA Region 4 Conference. It's 100% paid for by State Department of Public Health, so there'll be no cost to the county. Just need permission to take my...
Motion second. Questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Only thing you got to bring back a postcard.
One update I have is Cardinal Drive. I think that's supposedly happening. They're going out, they're waiting on an MOA from some group. And once they get that, maybe they go out to bid by the end of March.
Now,
Now
con-
this is year 10.
conversation, it's not going to be as wide, and
They're not necessarily narrowing the scope. The width will still happen from 25 up the hill, around into the main entrance of the high school up there by the
so
basketball
that
court.
impacts our fencing and
The
right
fencing
away.
will probably go, and Joe and I have talked about the fencing a little bit. It needed to be probably replaced overall anyway. Hopefully we go back to, a two-way street situation. Because we're worried about that one way right now. Safety issues there all the time, so hopefully it ends up being a good project. So.
And Joe, you may know this already, but the limb fell and smashed the fence up there across from Scott Middle. Are we just gonna leave it there until we replace if the fence is gonna be replaced, or, I don't know, I mean.
If I ever, I mean, the fence doesn't really serve a purpose as far as keeping people in or out, you know, because it's full of.
There's multiple entrances.
Multiple entrances. So I wouldn't spend a ton of money on it right now, when it could easily be, you know, depending on the bid.
You gotta.
Well, JR and I'll get out there and
Okay.
double check it again. But I know exactly because the property owner on the other side came in, didn't they, Stacy? On Cardinal Drive. You're not paying attention, are you? We had the property owner on the other side came in as well.
Okay.
You're gonna be in detention if you
So,
don't.
no. Sheriff Hampton.
Real quick, the truck that you guys approved, it should be in next week, the Dare truck, and we're gonna work on a graphics package. I don't know if you wanna be a part of that or not, or wanna see it before we approve it. But secondly, Lieutenant Betson applied for a grant for a Dare officer, and I just wanna briefly tell you about it.
So I applied for the opioid abatement grant. You mentioned the opioid abatement money that they'd given the county already. I spoke with a couple representatives from them last week on a Zoom call, and it sounded promising. I won't know until late April. We were in the maybe stack. I'd asked for money for the Dare truck to maybe offset, but they don't want to fund trucks, so that was really their holdup. So it does sound like they're probably going to fund Joe's salary, but I won't know until late April.
That'd be
which
awesome.
would give us
Right.
the ability to maybe get another SRO too, and
Yeah.
him teach full-time.
Yeah, that's been great. I mean, the elementary loved it. So DARE is going out to every fifth grader right now, is the goal. Hit every fifth grader that we can with DARE. And then we've got another drug-related type of program that we're doing for every sixth grader. And then we're working on a high school group right now too, so. But it's been big for.
So as soon as I find out late April, hopefully maybe next year, he can teach full-time, get every fifth grader, maybe the ninth graders.
Right.
That's cool.
David Livingston.
Marshall Field, I mentioned that earlier. They've got 3 dugouts that have blown down. So has there been discussion with the middle schools with regards to where, I know they used Great Crossing Park last week, and I don't want to run into a big scheduling conflict and everybody losing their mind, and so.
They already did.
That's been discussed, well, no,
They've already lost.
that part's happened, okay. I think the middle school takes precedent over travel club, travel ball, and also baseball has other fields as well. So I would like to see if they need a place to play, that they continue to play at Great Crossing, because they're not gonna get those,
There's Lemons Mill, there's all kinds of places they could have came.
well.
So let me add to
Try
the.
to do all that stuff.
Let me add to the conversation. So yesterday there was a social media post, and I was tagged in it. So I just picked up the phone and called the individual who was a middle school parent, and I clarified that, you know, the court had approved doing a lottery with Parks and Rec last year, and on Monday nights, boys and girls, local-based travel teams, youth travel teams, practice on Monday nights. Kim's already done the lottery a few weeks ago. I also shared that on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, Parks and Rec, youth softball, and youth baseball use the fields Tuesday and Wednesday nights. I said Thursday has not been used because it's kind of rain day and you can shift. And then Fridays we've just like used to get the park ready for Saturday, blah, you know, yada, yada, yada. I've talked with D.T. Wells this morning. He's in conversation this afternoon with middle school coaches. You know, the only other thing we could do is if you wanted to, you know, because I feel like we've committed to the youth teams, and she's already done that lottery, and they've made plans. You know, we could say, okay, Thursday nights. I mean, if you want to put that, you know, there's no dugouts, and I understand it's an issue, but at the same time, you're going to be using it quite a bit. But that's.
Or we take the baseball field that's closest to, I mean, are all those fields being used right now? Out in the county park?
Yeah, in Brooking, the middle school baseball.
GMS uses Lemons Mill.
Okay.
And Willow Spring.
Is Lemons Mill softball an option for them out there?
Yes, they don't want to use it.
So.
Then that's, I can't help that.
That's what I said.
Are there lights out there on that softball field?
It's got great lights.
Why don't they want to use them?
Because it doesn't have perfect dugouts, and it's got porta potties instead of bath.
Oh, well, Scott County High School has porta potties out on their high school.
I mean, I would love to all that to be finished up one day, but it's just
Sure.
not the priority.
Okay, well, then I'm going to draw my conversation.
All right.
We've got options.
All right.
Briefly, I'll shut up. Michelle reminded me, we're going to bring Deputy Thomas to the next workshop just to talk about dare and
That'd be
dare
great.
program.
Okay.
He's done a great job.
Yeah. So any other new business from anyone in our audience? David Livingston. Is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second? Second, Mr. Hostetler. All those in favor? We are adjourned.
Still got out early.